when you're telling me and my family to go back on my banana boat, how are you any different from the Americans who are telling people to go back from where they came from? You get my drift? How do I even start this video? What up everyone, Kari's Maggie here and welcome back to my channel where I encourage you to submerge yourself in culture to live better and meaningful lives. So for today's video, I wanted to be able to talk about something that is something I've been observing, and honestly I've wanted to talk about it for so long, but I felt like I didn't know enough, so I don't want to talk about it. But honestly, I think I've witnessed enough of the things so I can speak on it, and hopefully you all in the comments, you can also share your feedback as well with me of what you think about the topic. So today we're going to be talking about discrimination against Haitians. Did I trigger you? Don't click off the video yet. Like, just hold a seat, man. Just sit down, listen. Here's the thing. At some point, all of us were ignorant in some sort of way, and nothing is wrong with that. What is a problem, however, is doing nothing to get rid of that ignorance, right? Too many resources out there. But anyways, we're gonna get into this video. So I noticed that there has been a lot of outpour of support when certain events come up. And while I admire it, I'm grateful for it, good to see people waking up, I think that when the hype around it dies down a bit, we all go back to our old ways of treating each other lesser than based on cultural backgrounds, you know, where we come from, the language we speak, all those kind of stuff. It kind of goes out the window the minute all this stuff dies down. So for those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Maggie. I am Guyanese by birth, but my parents are Haitian, so I consider myself Haitian as well. To all my Zos out there, Sakab Fet, oui, Nabole, Bomba Gaya Mak Manje La, oui, okay. So I wanted to kind of talk about some of my experiences or things that I've noticed regarding discrimination that Haitian people face. And the reason I want to talk about it is because, especially for us in the Caribbean, I think we need to kind of address areas where we are a bit of hypocrites as well, and just also to kind of identify the reasons for why it is that we look at certain groups of people, or, you know, based on people's culture, why we judge them or discriminate against them without even noticing it sometimes. So ever since I was growing up, I knew that I was different from everyone else around me because I did not come from the same country as all the people in my class. I was from Guyana with Haitian parents. Everyone in my class was pretty much Jamaicans because that's where I grew up. And I remember sometimes that we would have, you know, conversations in class, especially social studies. Social studies class was both my favorite and probably my not so favorite class, and for this reason in particular. I remember the first time I encountered, you know, I kind of had a clash with a teacher because, hold on, let me take a bite. Bomba guy. So as I was saying, I can remember when I was, you know, in classes and social study in particular, my first experience or clash that I had with a teacher was when we were talking about, I don't even remember what the topic was, but she basically said like, oh, you know, so the poorest country in the Caribbean is Haiti. I had to pause her because I'm like, excuse me, miss, you know, I know what you guys are used to seeing on the media and whatnot, and it seems like that is the only reason you tend to use Haiti as example. It's kind of no different from like us in like first world countries, like if you're in USA or if you're in European countries or if you're in Canada. Whenever people want to give an example of poverty, they would always go to Africa, right? Not really thinking about the effects of why Africa is in that condition. It's not that the country is poor, it's that it was robbed. But anyways, back to our scheduled program. So I would tell her like, you know, that's all fine and well, but tell the kids why Haiti is poor. And she could never answer. So I feel like it needs to be a requirement for teachers that anybody who teach social studies, you're supposed to know about the Haitian Revolution. One pet peeve I think I have with the, you know, school system I don't know how many people have encountered this, like that you've actually learned about the Haitian Revolution. Personally, I didn't learn about it until I was in grade 10, and this was when I was preparing for CXC. So this is a Caribbean exam that we do, and we go on to university, whatever. So yeah, that's when I learned about it, and the only way you would learn about it is if you chose to do history as a course or as a subject. I feel like right now, I don't know how the school system is for a lot of Caribbean countries, but I feel like it should be a requirement that we actually implement some proper teachings into the classroom regarding people history. I feel like when I was learning about like even the transatlantic slavery or whatever, it was just like, yeah, so some bad people went to Africa and then they brought slaves and now here you are. Literally, that's how it felt. There was no in between, like I didn't learn that much. I will say though, I learned about the national heroes in Jamaica and like whatever revolts they were involved in. So like Sam Sharp, Nani, I learned about those people. Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle, yes, them people there. I learned about them. If you know the history behind Haiti, how it got to this state, the Haitian Revolution, if you want to know more information about that, I actually did a video with a guest on my For the Culture series where we talked about the Haitian Revolution in depth, and we talked about the reasons Haiti is poor. I believe Haiti, if you don't know, Haiti literally set the platform for the rest of Caribbean countries and also some other Latin American countries and South America and such to follow suit to fight for their independence. And also there was some sort of collaboration between someone from Haiti and someone from Jamaica in some part of the Haitian Revolution. So it's like you would think that they would teach this in school, right? But no. The teasing, it could be brutal at times, but I had a very thick skin, so a lot of it never fazed me because I knew who I was, and I knew that a lot of the stuff they were saying was not affiliated with me. Like that was not my personal story, so it didn't faze me. But I did notice on social media that, you see, if you want to disrespect somebody, just tell them say them look like Haitian. You favor Haitian. That are the biggest disrespect. I remember my really active days on Twitter. That was like the biggest disrespect you could give to somebody. Tell them say them look like Haitian. Just tell them say them look like Haitian. And it's like you win the argument. Everyone is like, oh. Really? What I found funny though was in the midst of all the teasing, your typical, go back on your banana boat and whatever. Half the people who will be telling me these things didn't own a passport, much less a visa, and I was a regular traveler, so I was seeing much more than they have ever seen. That was a petty moment right there, but that's how I felt. That's why it didn't faze me. But yeah, so stuff like that. Banana boat, go on your banana boat. Why I'm bringing this up in particular is because I feel like right now a lot of us have been very vocal, especially when it comes on to the states and how they do their immigration policy. And it's like we forget that we have been doing the same thing that a lot of these people have been doing as well. So when you're telling me and my family to go back on my banana boat, how are you any different from the Americans who are telling people to go back from where they came from? You get my drift? The audacity, the hypocrisy, it is uncanny. That's the word, right? So I remember that there was a time where it seemed like Haiti couldn't catch a break. Back to back, there were like so many natural disasters. I remember whenever it was hurricane season, there were people who would always be in anticipation to wonder, I wonder if Haiti is going to be in the midst of this one or, whatever hurricane it was. And for some reason, they always were. Them always get touched. So in about 2000 and I can't remember when it was, but there was a very bad earthquake, or was it a hurricane? One of them. I can't keep up. That happened, and of course a lot of people were fleeing Haiti because the conditions were really bad. People lost literally everything. The government wasn't really doing that much to help them, or they didn't have the capacity to help people. So people were fleeing, and some people came to Jamaica. And I can't remember what parish it was, but I do remember watching the news and just to see some people's like remarks regarding, the refugees who were coming from Haiti. And fast forward to now, we have a lot of people who are actually refugees from different countries who are fleeing for various reasons, some of which has to do with the country's condition, like because of corruption. Another big reason countries like Haiti never prospers, the corruption is real, okay? Now, there were people that, as they got to know me for me and not associating me to any stereotypes or, perceptions that they had of Haitian people, they were really good friends, I must say. And actually, during the time when Haiti had that really, really bad earthquake, remember that one in, I think it was 2010, that horrible one? My school did come together and show like solidarity. They did like a fundraiser through like a student who actually started it, a classmate of mine. So I never forget that. I never forgot how much I felt loved in that time, and it just made me see that people were able to, empathize with the situation, which is great to see. I will say that after that, the teasing and the name calling and all that stuff did get a bit less and less, but every now and then you buck upon like a yamhead who doesn't know better, so they say ignorant stuff. So it's whatever. What can you do? So another thing, the Haitian passport. So this thing called CARICOM? I don't know if Haiti is a part of it, but for the very longest, Haiti wasn't a part of it. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's abbreviation for Caribbean Community. I very vaguely remember what it is, so I'm just gonna put it on the screen as to what the purpose of it was. I want to think of it of like the Caribbean version of the UN, something like that. But Haiti wasn't a part of that, and I read a thing that said it was last year that this article even came out that Haiti is one of those countries that have like very little freedom to move in terms of traveling, and they require a passport for, not passport, a visa. So if you have a Haitian passport, traveling to a lot of countries is very limited in the Caribbean and some Latin American countries. There are only three countries apparently that they don't need a visa to travel. And I know this because I saw it firsthand. I remember going on vacations with my parents and coming back to Jamaica, which is where we were living at the time, and them needing a visa to re-enter the country or something of that sort. So I do know that frustration of traveling as a Haitian, unless you had dual citizenship for somewhere else, it did make travel very, very hard. And yeah, that was there were a lot of things that I feel like my parents weren't able to educate me on regarding the culture, because the fact of the matter is they didn't know. They weren't taught those things to that degree, so how could they be able to tell me it, right? And that's the case for many other Haitians as well. So I'm grateful that I am now able to get resources that I need to learn a bit more about the history, and yeah, to really just delve into that stuff that I didn't learn in school or I wasn't able to have passed down to me from my family or my parents. So yeah, I'm very grateful that my parents didn't hold back on actually speaking Haitian Creole to me and my brother when we were growing up. They would flip between English and Haitian Creole when they spoke to us, and that is really how I learned. I remember at one point I was even teaching adult Haitians how to speak English because I could understand them. So when they were in Jamaica and they're going to university or whatever, there are a couple of them that I pretty much was teaching English from I was like 8 years old. Your girl's been an ESL teacher all these years. Look at that. I'm not gonna say I'm fluent or anything, but I can help myself the same way I can switch back and forth between speaking proper English and then I go to patois, big up on yourself, and yeah, I can speak, I can help myself. I hope that what you got from this video is that at some point all of us have biases towards certain types of people, and we need to start to think about the reasons we have these biases, and the only way we can really change the world is by starting with ourselves. Listen, I'm not here to try and dispute the fact that Haiti has its problem. What I'm basically trying to bring across with this video is that too many times we are taught or, shown certain things about people or a culture or a country without knowing the facts behind the reason they're in that situation. We look at them and say, oh, it's because of this and that, like fake news, for example.
Something happened a long time ago in Haiti, and people might not want to talk about it. They were under the heel of the French, Napoleon III and whatever. And they got together and swore a pact to the devil. They said, we will serve you if you'll get us free from the French. It's a true story. And so the devil said, okay, it's a deal. And they kicked the French out. The Haitians revolted and got themselves free. But ever since, they have been cursed by one thing after the other, desperately poor.
Okay, we'll go with that. We won't talk about the fact that for years they were extorted by France for their independence. We won't talk about the fact that other first world countries have pretty much contributed to the corruption that a lot of Haitians politicians have done, in affecting the people of its own country. And we're going to completely ignore the fact that natural disaster after natural disaster has been hitting them. And when we do hear about funds being raised to help them, the people don't see the money. So yeah, that's not the reason, right? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.